You're listening to The Kick on Longbox.FM. The Kick is for an adult audience. The Kick may contain certain material that may be unsuitable for sensitive ears. Listener discretion is advised.
Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Car ma vie, car mes joies, aujourd'hui.
News, politics, and discussion. This is The Kick.
What you say, what you say, what you say, what? We'll come like a boy.
All right, we're back here. It's The Kick. Monday nights here, Longbox.FM studios, brought to you, of course, by Riley's Brewing.
Thank you, Riley.
So we've got a big show. I think that's an understatement for what's going on tonight. For those who are brand new, and I know we got some new ones out there, this is The Kick. It is on Longbox. This is a station, a radio station that happens to be located on the internet that is dedicated to everything local in the valley here. But of course, with this show, we do politics and news. And every single week, we strive to reach out and bring up news that's going on that is important to people, whether local or national, and get conversation from all sides of the party. We also strongly encourage you that if you're listening to participate, you can hit us up on the Twitter or Skype or any of those things, Longbox.FM, or you can chat in the chat room. Vanna's watching that as well as I am. Vanna will be live tweeting as well. So we want your opinions on anything, and feel free to call in at any point, 559-492-0450, and we will get you on the show to give us your opinion. If you disagree with whatever we're saying, we encourage that. We won't shut you down. We want to hear it. Opinions are great. So, before we go any further, before we do any introductions, I have something that I do want to bring up in regards to this show specifically.
Ooh.
I started working on this last week. As soon as we were done with the Dirty Daddy podcast on Wednesday, I shifted gears to getting this show prepped. Obviously, we were talking about Dylan Noble and what was going on there. I had communications with the lawyer, with the PR woman for the lawyer, Kim, and for 2 days, we talked about the possibility of them being on here to discuss the case. I kept getting we'll give you a call back. We'll give you a call back this afternoon. We promise. No call back. Nothing. They pretty much blew me off. And the reason they blew me off is because they didn't want to talk about Black Lives Matter. They did not want to talk about anything that supports cops. They want their case to be rock steady. And in that case, we're going to just bash cops and everything they did was wrong. And that is not what the goal for this show is. From there, I reached out to multiple leaders in the city. City council members, people running for city council. I reached out to a pastor who was a part of the Black Lives Matters movement, reaching out for any leader to be here, because I think with the events that's gone on this last week, and goddamn, this last week has been as exhausting as possible. I joked earlier before the show, because I need some sort of levity here. We have enough material to go the next 8-9 weeks. Like, shut it down, world. You start killing each other again in October, maybe. Let us actually flesh through these things one at a time. It's almost like Dylan Noble doesn't matter now, because it was just 6 days ago that footage came out, you know.
And everything else has seemed to overshadow it as we move along. So
yeah, there's way too much. But we need, at this point, I think, it starts with our country. Number one, we have a shitty leader. And I don't think I've ever outwardly just said Obama is a shitty leader. I believe that you have to respect your president, call him Mr. President and all that, but he's clearly a piece of shit. And terrible leadership there at the top right now currently. In our city, our state, well, God, Moon Glove, Jerry Brown, whatever, jackass, jackhole.
Mr. Public Cell Phone.
Yeah, jackass, terrible leadership in Sacramento, and now down to the city where we're begging for people, especially when we got our very own cop shooting of our own. Like, Fresno's now on the map, right? Could we get someone to come together and start talking about ways to fix it, make things better? That was what I was going for tonight. No leaders would show up.
You have to wait till after the election.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think that is exactly the point. No one's going to say or do anything that could hurt their standing right now. And that is horseshit, absolute horseshit.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
And if we're elected for 2 or 4 years, does that mean for the first 2 years we can get something out of you, but then the last 2 years is you get in re-election mode, you're just going to shut it down? Yeah. Is that what we're looking for, people?
I think it's a radio silence at that point. I think if you're bumping yourself up on the campaign trail and you're heading into the elections and everything else, I think you're going to get out there and say as little as you can just to make sure that everybody gets on board with your goddamn slogans. I mean, look at Donald Trump; he's made a mess of that already. But after that, when you're actually in office, and then you head back into the election cycle after the first 2 years, the last 2 years, you're just I don't know. I just need to get reelected, so here I go again. So the first 2 years of any presidency is always fun.
Well, we, again, with this, reaching out to every leader I could, I also fell back on reaching out to some of the social justice warriors on Facebook, the people who have no qualms with writing anything and everything out there.
They have a lot to say. Where are they?
When you invite them to come on the show, suddenly they no-show. They don't want to be here.
That's what I call courage.
To debate with facts and face-to-face and no echo chambers?
Yeah.
What?
Crazy. So there's a lot of...
Where are you going to put the emojis? I mean, really.
For real, yeah. There's no typing here. You actually have to think about something and then say it out of your face.
Yeah. So
ridiculous.
There's a lot of flapping gums out there. No one willing to step up and talk. We are not the saviors of all here. We're just talking, and I hope maybe to make a little dent, some ideas. I have some ideas I want to bring up in the show later on, specifically about police shootings and how we handle that. But I'm glad we did get 2 people. We actually had 3 scheduled tonight. Unfortunately, our friend Nate, who came here, he was coming here from Abu Dhabi, as of all places, got held up in Los Angeles. So he won't be here until after 9. The show should be done by then. We'll see how tonight goes. But we did get, and the first guy I did talk to, Geoff Thurman, who's been a part of some of my shows in the past.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. This is, to me, so exciting because I have been seeing since the first grenade hit, the only way that we can find peace and find some sort of resolution is to dialogue and to communicate. There's two things in communication: talk and listening. There's a whole lot of talking and there's nobody listening. And so anytime, I don't care what it is, this is how you start. And you said it too. This is how you start healing, is by getting it out and talking about it. And that's what you said. Yes, I'm in.
Before we go any further, just give us a little bit about you, some how we find you. Obviously, I said musician and stuff, so give us a little love on Geoff.
Yeah, I'm Facebook is I think it's Geoff.Thurman. There's a Twitter feed which is G Thurman Songs. I have a website, GeoffThurman.net. Been here in the Fresno area since 2011. Moved here from Nashville and have just kind of been involved with the music scene. And when I'm not doing music, I'm caretaker for my beautiful bride Lisa, who's a cancer patient and just tough as hell and a hero to everybody. So I get to be around a lot of young guys and just stay relevant. And these guys actually listen to me, which is a shock because I don't know that I have that much to say, but they feel like there's something there. That's cool.
All right, and next to you we have another guest. It's Chris Stenko.
Stetsko.
Sorry, I'm my bad on that. It's written right in front of me too. Now you, when we first started the Kick, Philip Teresi actually recommended you as somebody to talk to get involved because I guess you always harass him on KMJ.
I always have an opinion or two.
And just out of nowhere, you started blistering my Facebook page with nonstop news articles, which I got to say again, thank you so much because that really makes prep week to week on something that I feel weak on. I'm not really a political guy. Getting a whole lineup of news and going, okay, so what do I pick? Cool, thank you.
I was always that kid growing up. During show and tell, people would bring in their new favorite doll or this cool book, and I was a kid bringing in news articles that my grandmother would help clip out of the newspaper in the morning. Mount St. Helens, some of the hurricanes, Ronald Reagan. Going back to 1979, 1980, going in front of first, second grade show and tell. Yeah, this is what's going on. This is what's happening in the world. And one of my teachers thought, this guy's going to be a reporter or something like that, because I was watching the news and paying attention at a very young age, and it's just something that has stuck with me all this time.
And you were staying up on the current times and all those newspaper clippings and everything else that you were doing with your grandmother. I mean, it helped you to gain a greater sense of what was going on out there just beyond your own circle.
Absolutely. I remember Dan Rather reporting on the Russians going into Afghanistan. I remember watching Miracle on Ice on ABC and listening to the boycott of the Olympics, the Iran hostage crisis, Desert One, the Delta Force going in and crashing in the desert, going into Tehran to try to save those hostages. I remember all that. One of my earliest memories is of the gas lines. I remember being on California and Fresno Street, and this long line of cars for the gas station with my father at a very young age.
The gas crisis.
Like
of the
Yes,
70s.
the energy crisis, the gas crisis. I remember those things. That's as far back as I go. Just don't ask me what I had for dinner last night, or ask me. So what were your answers on that last test? I don't know, but I remember things like that.
Right. The important community and social aspects of life you definitely remember from a young
Yes,
age.
and I can't tell you the last thing the Kardashians said, because I don't follow that either.
God bless
Amen.
you.
Unfortunately, because my Wednesday nights, I do know. So. Actually, this is why I'm glad to have guests like you guys on in here, because as we were saying before the show even started, as far as my political history goes, it started in March. Me getting involved with a whole thing here in the Valley lit a fire under my ass. My co-host tonight, Kevin, you've been political since you were in the uterus, correct?
Oh, Lordy. No, I slipped and fell into it like in 2011. I was just watching YouTube, and I don't know, I call it the YouTube snake of craziness, where you just kind of follow videos that they keep hinting at, and before you know it, it's like a game of telephone, and you're off somewhere you've never even thought you'd be.
The rabbit trail.
Yeah, and I was just listening to some video, and there was a politician guy who was talking about government being too large and the need for free speech and all this stuff, and I'm like, where is this coming from? I've never heard of any guy in Washington ever speak of this kind of stuff.
Is that Molyneux? Because we talked.
It was Ron Paul. And this is before I knew who Ron Paul ever was, and I was like, that's the first time I'd heard anything opposite to what I would expect out of Washington. So I just did a little more research, a little more, and before you know it, I'm driving to Florida to protest the RNC because they were going to cheat him out of becoming a candidate in 2012, and then it just piles more and more on. And anybody that's been to the entrance of the rabbit hole, once you peek in, you're done.
You're down.
Oh, yeah.
You're done.
Full force.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm far deep into it. So
Should have taken the blue pill.
should have taken the blue pill. Steak is delicious.
Let me give some love here to our other two co-hosts, Vanna.
Yeah, I actually can relate a lot to you, Chris. Actually grew up with an interest in current events. I was addicted to watching TV. I was really into watching C-SPAN at a young age, but I had world domination on my mind.
Ah, yes.
Actually was really involved in student government and the paper at my school. Actually wrote for President V for a while. So
You mean you weren't chasing around Pokemon in the park either?
No, that's now.
I did that too, but I played the card game, which is very, very mental
Sure.
and challenging
Sure.
as a nerd. But I just it's really cool to have you guys on. I actually have a religious background too. I'm actually so Republican that I was in a Republican Party commercial.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I know I look like a social justice warrior, but I'm like a little.
They let
I'm
you
my
in
own
the
person.
commercial?
Hey, we're a
I'm
Big Tent party.
free-thinking person. Yeah.
The Republicans are a big tent.
Yeah.
The minority with colored hair, they let you in the commercial?
Yeah, Asian and Hispanic.
Were you the slander scene? You were, weren't you?
I was actually, I was
Right.
actually really into Ron Paul and Hillary Clinton. It was a weird 2007.
How?
For me.
Oh, wow.
The
Before
evolution.
I introduce him, Ben, again, if you want to participate tonight, hit us up in the chat room, Skype us, Longbox.FM, and of course you can call in 492-0450. We will get you on air. Ben, don't you give us a little bit about you and your first story?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a transplant from Manchester, England, born and raised there till the age of 9. I actually grew up in a parochial school, so my days consisted of uniforms, and my mornings consisted of going in and learning everything about the good word of the Lord. And then we moved to the States in 91 and just kind of dropped all of that. So then I just kind of meandered through life through high school and did the normal teenager thing, and then graduated high school, and a buddy of mine convinced me that it was the right time in our lives to sign up for the Marine Corps, so I did that. Did that in 2000, and then 2003 we got deployed to Kuwait. Following year we got deployed to Iraq, and then everything just kind of spirals from there. I've had a very up and down roller coaster love-hate relationship with the government, the military, and everything else involved. And I just spent a number of years with a band, a very socio-political band that just basically lambasted everything about the government and everything in between. So yeah, I've spent time on both sides of the line, research, in-depth, and just experience and otherwise, and was really excited for this job when Chris hit me up. So definitely appreciate it.
All right, give me the first of the shitty list of news stories from last week.
Oh my God! Well, we're gonna start off a little bit current here, because obviously this is going on live, and everybody knows about the Republican National Convention and the absolute circus that is right now. And one of the biggest things that I wanted to point out, because as we really get into this, it's very interesting to see the list of who's there supporting him versus who's not there supporting him. So getting into it real quick, so Bush Sr. and Bush Jr., both former presidents or both living Republican presidents, could not be there or did not want to be there.
Which I know by the way, I know the media made a thing about them no-showing, but this is not their first time no-showing.
No. They actually did it in 2012 too. So, and
I don't think
John
Bush was there in 2008 either in Minneapolis for McCain, because they made the big thing about the White House endorsement,
right?
And McCain didn't want Bush there because of the economy tanking, the problems with Russia going into I think it was the Republic of Georgia, the small little country, and so forth, and of course the Wall Street bailouts. So McCain wanted Bush as far away, so he didn't go in 08 either. That's nothing new,
right? Exactly, and it did the same thing with Romney in 2012, roundabout, just because of the economic factors involved. Which, by the same token, Mitt Romney's not there.
Well, Romney's a two-time loser, so
has he ever been there? On a bigger level?
I think he sent a representative in once or twice.
No, he's back in his Mormon community home in Mexico. That exists.
But
no, San Diego with the car elevator. That house, they had a whole. They did a whole news story that he has. I believe it's in San Diego, La Jolla area. A actually elevator garage where he pulls the car in, and an elevator actually lifts it up to a different deck for his cars.
So no normies can see it.
Exactly.
Or breathe in its
out
direction.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
You guys don't even worry about it.
I'm not even sure if I might have seen this today or not. I can't remember, but I thought on one of them, I don't know if it was CNN or if it was MSNBC, somebody I thought said that they were going to do some sort of a tribute to, of all people, Robert Dole. Bob Dole.
Really?
Bob
Really?
Dole.
What the hell for?
Just let that think in. Just let that sink, just for a second.
The president of Viagra?
Goodness.
President of retirement age.
In his defense, he's a, quote, elder statesman. He's 90-something years old.
Of course.
He's probably not going to be here when 2020 rolls around. He is a war veteran.
Lucky.
He's a war veteran. He won several medals in Italy during World War II. So you give him his pat on the back, let him go out in the sun.
Absolutely.
And
We've honored worse.
breaking news out of the RNC, he actually just did get a standing ovation as he walked in to give his speech, because he's one of the endorsees of the evening.
Wow.
So Bob Dole gets in fact, everybody in the room stood up if you saw the picture and the footage. But
much love to Bob Dole. Have respect for the man for everything that he's done and everything he's contributed. But I think from my standpoint, it goes a little bit to kind of the dancing bear routine that this is becoming.
kind of
They can't.
becoming.
Well, the
Oh,
circus.
no, it's there.
Well, everybody wants to be a champion when even the anti-hero like Trump's in the limelight, right? I mean, everybody wants a piece of that same spotlight, whether it paints them positively or negatively, because even at this point, they're taking the TMZ style of celebrity. It's
How
like
crazy is it?
all news is good news. At
There's
this
power to be mongrel.
Well, that's,
Sure.
that's what got Trump to this point. He did not go the traditional establishment route, which is why the traditional establishment types are not showing up, or
Right.
oh well, we're not going to come. You had last place Lindsey Graham, my hero, not the man at one point was polling at a 0.06% nationally.
Right.
I could have done a 0.06%
Yep.
Yeah.
nationally.
Right.
And this man is a United States senator
Right.
who's had a platform for what, 25 years, and all he was getting was 0.06%.
Right.
So
It shows
yeah.
you where the hardline politics stop and the spectacle begins. It really does. But
I feel like you need music for this. Welcome,
so in other
Donald
news,
Trump.
and actually the most notable absence of the night is the host state's governor being John Kasich, but everybody kind of understood that absence, so no reason to harp on that too much.
Who I would have liked to be in it in the
Definitely.
end.
Absolutely.
I would have been real happy with that.
But hey, guess what? Scott Baio showed up. Anybody remember Charles in Charge?
Oh, now I'll vote.
Isn't the guy from 45 and Single?
There it is.
Yes.
Ah.
That
He
was the
was-
show you were thinking about, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's all I know him
For
from.
some of you
Right.
born after 1985, Google the word chachi.
Oh no! Here we go. Because anybody
that sounds
that
like
knows
a cuss
anything,
word.
No, chachi.
that feels like a very sexual connotation.
It's-
but for
it's-
real, no, it's
I
happy
know,
days.
I noticed the people that
Happy
are sitting at this table who are 35 years and older got that joke, and the ones that are under 35 are like, that's a cuss word. No,
Hey.
that
But
was
if you-
it. That was.
Well,
if you
just
remember-
just to go ahead and do this, because see, I'm actually 58, and I had to go.
Yeah.
No, wait, hold it, Oh,
that one. So, but if you remember Chachi from Happy Days,
And
you
Charles in
remember-
Charge.
but you also remember the spin-off from Happy Days, which was Joni Loves Chachi, right? Okay,
Oh, my-
I had to do a
Right.
little bit of research on this one because I myself am not privy. I remember when I was like 9-10 years old watching reruns of Happy Days because
Yeah.
by 82, 88, like it wasn't on, it was just gone. But so he was Chachi on Happy Days and Joni and Chachi, and then he was Charles in Charge, and then he did Diagnosis Murder. Which,
Really, I didn't know that one.
Yeah,
What's
he had
the name
a
of that
quick
one?
stint on that. That was back when Dick Van Dyke was only like 79.
I would say, why are we talking about Scott Baio? But again, you were talking about the RNC.
The
so-
RNC.
And
So-
bringing me to my point about Scott Baio, tonight so far, besides Bob Dole's standing ovation, there are two things that I take away from the RNC, and neither of them have to do with Donald Trump. The first being Chris Christie, just to kind of tangent off really quickly, because the man walked in at about 6:15
Pounds?
Pacific time. Yes. Yes.
Did he have Trump's
Mic
Big
drop.
Mac order?
No, but the guy walked in a blue pinstripe suit and a red and white polka dot tie. He looked like he was showing up to the company Christmas party.
I'm not going to play the
as
sound
opposed
button
to
again.
showing up
That
to the RNC.
that one deserved the sound button.
So there's Chris Christie showing up with every bit the fake tan that he has.
Chris
on a
Christie, table for
24-hour
two,
basis.
non-smoking, please.
Exactly. And then
He's gonna eat a
Scott
table?
Baio. Let's just admit it. If you guys saw the pictures or saw any part of the speech from tonight's RNC speech that he gave, two things stand out to me. One, the guy has fallen into the man-child hole of not being able to dress himself because he looks like he's wearing his father's suit. And two, he looks like he was paid in crystal meth to speak there. The guy literally had the most bloodshot eyes out of everybody in the room, and that's before everybody starts hitting that Pokey Dot whiskey and starts going out of their absolute minds.
He looks
So,
like a more stretched out version of Tony Danza.
He really does. He absolutely does.
Just
We need
that's-
photos.
sorry, I'm not putting
Wow.
those up.
Another friend of Abe.
But you know what? It's funny because Scott Baio has actually been into politics for a while because he actually campaigned for Ronald Reagan back in his early days when he was a kid. He was actually out there on the trail, and when Ronald Reagan died, he also went to the estate funeral. So he was there and did all
my-
that. And
She saw a
it's
photo.
funny we
Photo.
mentioned. See, she saw it now. So, and then we mentioned Mitt Romney in 2012, and he actually went out there on behalf of Mitt Romney and spoke. But that was when he looked like a less stretched out Tony Danza. So
That's got to stick.
It's a lot on Scott Baio.
it really is.
All right.
It just goes to show the hypocrisy on that, because just like how Scott Baio went out for Romney in 2012, Trump went out for Romney in 2012 also, and there was Romney, there were Paul Ryan, ready to bend over and kiss the golden derriere for Trump's endorsement support. One of the great American businessmen. That's a quote. That's not me. That is a quote.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I wouldn't fast forward to 2016. Oh, we can't trust Donald Trump. Donald Trump's just a showman. Weren't saying that 4 years ago, were you?
Politics.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Well, we
And-
all know that I say to people all the time when they talk about this guy didn't do this guy did, understand that politician comes from the Greek word which means damn liar.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So it's if they say good morning, you're going to check to make sure.
Oh, great. Everything's on fire.
I
Those
want to.
two words in the last week have already
if
been
everything's
an
on fire,
oxymoron
just be sure to
anyway.
grab a
Thank you.
violin. So
I want to add one thing here real quick, and then we'll move on. But we should do a contest as far as the rest of this Trump campaign between now and November. Over under on how many Celebrity Apprentice stars make an appearance on any part of his
to
campaign.
defame him.
No, to be a part of his team.
Oh, just to be up in the spotlight. with him.
Flavor.
Oh, there could be a side bet. How many of the ones that he's fired did Hillary bring to attack him?
Right.
just to make this even more of a joke.
If this actually happens, I'm thinking Dennis Rodman for HUD secretary.
God, it literally is idiocracy happening right now. Now, Ben and I, we had talked about this before the show. With the amount of serious shit going on, all of a sudden we have some giggles here. We wanted to start off with some lightness. But now that we've done Scott Baio,
Yeah.
give us
and
the
this-
real
and
stuff
this-
going
yeah,
on.
so still surrounding the RNC, there's a couple things that stand out, and one is that the Cleveland police chief had called for the tightening of the open carry during the RNC, because obviously it's going on for the next 4 days, and the police chief was worried that Ohio being an open carry state, obviously there's going to be a lot of people out there, protesters and otherwise, and everybody's going to have the chance to bear arms and this, that, and the other. It's just going to pop off in every direction. And no, Kasich's office said, "Fuck you guys! Like, no, we're not doing that. Like,
Damn
we're not
right.
going to. We're not going to abbreviate the state's laws or temporarily change anything just because Donald Trump's in town." Which brings me to my next point, because now the president of the police officers union in Cleveland actually asked the governor's office to declare a state of emergency, which, if anybody can't see the irony in that at this
Oh,
point
my
with the
gosh.
RNC being in town.
why is the lake on fire again?
Exactly. I think it's just the fact that so many B and D list celebrities are in town right now. They're afraid there's going to be like an overrun of like zombie freaking celebrity groupies that just all want to get Scott
I'm just
Baio.
waiting for Ian Ziering to show up for Sharknado 5.
Exactly. Thank you.
My sister is a I said this before. She's a tenured professor at Cleveland State University in African Literature Studies, and she lives not far from downtown, but her office is right. As a matter of fact, I believe there was a protest that was going on earlier today, and I looked and I saw where they were protesting, right by Cleveland State. So I texted my sister and I said, "You are hereby banned from leaving your home
Right.
for the next 4 days."
Yeah.
Because there's so much anger, there's so much rage,
Yeah.
and like it or not, Mr. Trump is a lightning match.
Get used to saying President Trump. Let that sink in.
No.
It hurts, doesn't it?
If I have what I believe to be a biblical command that whomever is that person who sits in that chair, then I am commanded by my Father to pray that God use whoever that is. Now, you have to know that that's really going to take a whole another level.
Test of faith.
If it happens to be that guy, but because ultimately, and I've said this, people talk about it doesn't really matter who you said, Obama's a piece of shit. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. He had ideas, and I support some of what it is, but then when he got in there, and especially then when you've got guys like McConnell saying, I don't care what he's going to bring to the table, I'm going to refuse it. So there's been this kind of
that
chicken
needs
match.
checked out already.
I don't know if Obama is a POS like state also. He is definitely an ideologue, but unlike Bill Clinton, who, when Newt Gingrich and the Republicans took over in 1994, knew how to compromise, knew how to check which way the wind is blowing,
right,
and get in front of it and say, I absolutely agree with that. And which is why they called him Slick Willie, because he knew how to take something over that he absolutely disagreed with, make it his own, own it, and make people love him for it. Obama, from day one, from Jump Street, was, this is my way, I'm doing this, I don't care what you say. Or there's the highway. There was never any attempt for compromise. There was never any kumbaya sessions with Republican or Democrat leaders. It was just his weekly radio address. I want this, and I want the Republicans to come together for my vision. There was never, let's come together and discuss it. No, here's my idea. You're in the way. Get out of the way. Get on board or get out of the way. And he refused.
Semi-dictatorish.
He was running solely on ideology and to damn with anything else or any compromise or anybody who disagreed with him.
Which goes to your point too, actually. Sorry. Which goes to your point too, actually, is because the first couple of years were interesting. And then after term one, the second couple of years was like, I just need to get to the next 4 years, and then we'll see what happens. And so it becomes a joke. Well,
I've been saying with the two that we have running right now, Hillary's going to get 8, Trump will get 4. And I'm kind of more interested in Trump for 4.
I don't think Hillary would get 8.
Look, no one gets voted out early unless you're that
bad.
Not necessarily bad, just that God, lack of words here. That
Bad's
divisive. Like you just pushed too many people away, and Trump, I think his mouth is just going to run away and piss enough people off that everybody's going to be looking for who's next, including his own party, which will be all over the replacement setup.
And let's face it, there's just to build off that too. There's the last 3 presidents have all served out their full 8 years. So
That's 3.
And that's all 3 presidents with 3 different sets of ideas, 3 different sets of governing bodies, and
Reagan,
everything else.
Bush, Clinton,
Bush, Clinton,
Obama. That's 5.
Bush
was
Clinton,
4
Bush, and
years.
Obama.
If Ross Perot hadn't won, you could argue that he might have gotten a second term if Perot wasn't in, because Perot pulled more from H.W. Bush than he did from Clinton.
Yeah.
And Perot ran in 92 and 96, which pulled a lot from Dole also. Because remember, Obama was Bill Clinton was the first president to win the presidency under 50% both times. He never had a majority.
So let me ask you a question, just building off of your previous comment about kumbaya talks and like the rhetoric. I mean, do we right now, Chris, what do you think? Do we right now need a president who's going to be more of a straight shooter, or do we need a president who's going to try and please both sides of the line just for the sake of maintaining an office?
Not my answer is going to sound political, but maybe a little bit of both. Someone who's going to come in like Trump. Trump is the only one out there talking ideas, talking plan, talking strategy. He's the one that sees the big picture. What I think is going to happen, the reason why he went with a Mike Pence is Governor Pence is a insider. He's been on the inside in Congress. He's pushed through legislation and policy. I believe, in my personal opinion, without talking to anybody, Newt Gingrich, I believe, in if I'm reading the tea leaves, is going to be the White House chief of staff. He's right there next to Trump, day to day. When you're vice president, it's, hey, how you doing, vice president? See you in 4 years. Check the newspaper every morning. That's basically a vice president's job. Joking aside. But if you remember the character Leo from the TV show The West Wing, Leo, or the chief of staff, carries the water on a day-to-day basis. The chief of staff decides what's important, what isn't, and basically has the reins over the president on which direction the policy and the plans need to go. He's the one who has to, he or she is the one that has to go in and talk the president off the ledge. He or she is the one that has to say why it's a bad idea to drop the nuclear bomb on Afghanistan after 10 soldiers are killed. Let's just go in there and kill everybody. The chief of staff has to rein him in and say, okay, calm down. This is why we can't do that. Here is the proportional response. And Newt Gingrich would be perfect for that. He loves that wonkish stuff. He has enough DC cred being former Speaker of the House. He knows which buttons to push and what needs to be done to get through Congress. Who to use honey with, who to use vinegar with, and who you go out and beat up in the back of an alley to get stuff done, because he's done it.
Trump reminds me of that one friend that everyone has when you're growing up, who you give him a couple sips of the drink and he's ready to fight anyone. He's always got the shortest, the quickest temper, ready to fire, and he's always surrounded by like 8 of his friends going, hey, calm down. I'm sorry, my friend, he's just a little drunk. He's just, and you know, you got your asshole friend in the background going, fuck him, I'll kill him. Ah! Just like, yep, that's Trump. He's doing it again.
Wow.
That's what I think that they're going to have to build a cabinet of. Calm the fuck down, dude.
Yeah.
Well, if you know that it's a New York, New Jersey thing. My father is a New Jersey native. You see a lot of that bombasticness in Chris Christie.
Yeah, how much do you want to see Trump and Christie together then?
Exactly, which is why that didn't happen. And Trump
over lasagna, I guess that's okay.
And Trump is a typical New Yorker, so when he's up there doing all his bombastic speech, it's resonating with New Yorkers. If you check the people in the tri-state area, he's ahead in Connecticut. Him and Hillary are neck and neck in New York. New Jersey, Hillary has a slight lead, and Trump arguably is leading in Pennsylvania. So that sort of a attitude resonates with people from the East Coast, Northeast, much more than it does with more of the Bible Belt Southeast and the more laid back West Coast type.
Yeah.
And so with that, I mean, obviously we're talking about, you know, the East Coast and how the East Coast is obviously going to latch on, depending on where you are, you're going to latch on more to one person's politics than the other.
I don't know. I think Snoop and Dre were a better pick.
You know what? When I saw Snoop in the game in the whole video in Los Angeles last week, I mean, that was incredible. But that kind of goes along with the next subject, and Freddie Gray. And everybody that's been following the news has seen Freddie Gray, this case, and how high profile it's been out of Maryland. Just a quick background: Freddie Gray died last April due to injuries sustained during a transport to a police lockup in the back of in the back of one of the vans. And 6 officers from Baltimore Police Department, four of which the trials have already ended, officially with Brian Rice, who's lieutenant and one of the highest-ranking officers. And he was officially acquitted of all charges that included reckless endangerment, manslaughter, among others. And the one thing that stands out to me is how the hell, as a lieutenant, because one of the points of the case is, you know, the lawyers argued that, well, he didn't know, you know, that not seatbelting a convict or a suspected criminal in the back of a van is going to cause any kind of bodily harm. Well, if you go over a couple of bumps or if you hit the brakes a little too hard and you've got a suspect in the back of the van who's handcuffed with his hands behind his backs and he just goes ass over tea kettle onto the floor and hits his head with no way to put his hands out there in front of him, if that's how it happened, because that's how the unofficial stories came out. How do you not know that? Just common sense. How do you not know that that's going to, that's not going to hurt him? So they basically acquitted Brian Rice of the charges, and now there are 2 officers left to go, 2 of the more junior officers, obviously. And I feel like at this point, if you're going to acquit the lieutenant in this one, you're going to acquit the other 2. So you got 6 officers, which everything to me screams a little bit of foul play in one sense or another, because you've got a guy who they're transporting. They're not taking him to the closest central lockup. They're taking him all the way to the west side of Baltimore from where they were when it happened. And obviously that's like an extra 10 to 15 minute ride from where they were. So why are you transporting him that much further? Why is there such a time gap? And why?
See, I would like to know how many times that actually happens, because this may not be a real thing. It's just something that a lawyer has brought up in order to make a case.
And you know what I mean when you look at
why did he have his gun on his right hip instead of his left?
Right.
You know, they'll always find some detail, some point, to make a case, and then there'll be a movement that'll grab that little point and make a deal out of it.
Well, the thing that scares me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was it. They're trying to create doubt so that the verdict cannot be made beyond a shadow of a doubt. Mm-hmm. That's all they need to do. And I'm not saying it's for or against any the state or the defendant. But it's just as far as lawyers operate, this is exactly how they operate. They're there to win the case. They're not there for moral reasons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the judge in the case is urging everybody to remain unbiased and impartial throughout the proceedings. And it's, well, look, you gave us your 25-minute speech on why you think it should be this way, and then what do you think the jury's going to say after that? Oh, let's listen to the judge and let's just acquit the guy. So
it sounds good to me.
That's the American judicial system at some point. If the judge says, well, this is the way you've got to do it, I mean, you've got 12 people who have no law experience at all. You know, you get called in for jury duty and you're part of a panel of, fair and impartial peers, and you have no law experience at all. So you're listening to people who have been in the game and been in the business for, 30, 40 plus years. So there you are. You're going to make a decision based on whatever you're told. Whether the facts stand up or not, whether everything pans out the way it was supposed to, you're going to do what you're told. And so I think that ultimately played the role, because the judge came out and gave his 25-minute speech and basically swayed everything to the end of, well, we just have to acquit this lieutenant of all charges. That's the way I feel.
The thing that scares me about this is what's going to happen afterwards, because as you said, there's 4, there's 2 left. I almost feel like by the 6th, assuming that what your
at this point it
is,
looks like 6 will be acquitted.
6 will be acquitted. So by the 6th acquittal, that city is going to be ready to blow the fuck over.
Absolutely.
And everyone.
There you go.
Everyone is going to be on call. Every pastor, they're going to rebirth Rodney King to come back to try to find peace at some places. This is not good.
I don't know. I would have thought that would have happened by now, by the 2nd or 3rd acquittal. I think the people have just moved on, for one thing, and secondly, with the Freddie Gray, people forget there were also 5 other people in that van, and none of them sustained a thing. Mm-hmm. Part of it was people were saying Freddie Gray was dealing at the time, if I remember part of the story, right. And he might have been a little loaded too. And people that were arrested that were in the back of the van said that he was jumping around, banging his head against the wall. So he wasn't seated. He wasn't in the proper seating. And from what I remember, taking somebody from the nearby station to the west side is the difference between taking 6 people in the back of a police van to the local Clovis station, or taking them down to downtown Fresno Central Booking. And you have one who's jumping around and out of control who couldn't be properly fastened in.
All right.
And so at what point does a cop risk themselves or their own body injury? Because at this time, the whole Black Lives Matter and what do we want, dead cops, pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon. Yeah. We've heard all that. That was just starting at this time. Right. So already they're, and you and I are Marine veterans, and we've been in forward areas. The whole idea is to strap them in, and if they're not cooperating, you worry about your own 6 because nobody else is.
Yeah.
And if he's not cooperating, you just lock the van and get him out of there. And whatever this guy's doing in the back, it's. Do I wish that had happened to him? No. But at the same time, at what point does personal responsibility and personal behavior start to come in as a factor?
There's a point that's lost on everyone. Personal responsibility is not a phrase of mine for anyone the last 20 years.
Yeah, no, there's no accountability. And it's funny because we talked earlier today, Kevin had brought up wanting to talk about Black Lives Matter, and I think it's important. I think we've all kind of hit on that a little bit, so that'll come in the next segment. But just an interesting note walking into the next segment after the break. I did read the Black Lives Matters manifesto, and that I read through it, and I can say that I've literally thought about it from every single angle. But the one thing that matters that kind of ties into Chris's point is the personal protection, the personal. You watch your ass, because at this point you have literally, it's your life on the line or his, and then what do you do? So now, tying that into BLM later, but I do tend to agree. I do tend to agree because I think that there is a certain inherent risk being a police officer, and I think that you always have to watch yourself. I do think there are smarter ways of doing your job in certain instances and circumstances.
Well, if you remember, there was already a crowd forming at that time,
right?
And what's the idea?
Blood
get
in the
them
water.
in and get out of there, and that has to play in the minds. And remember, of these 6, 3 of them were African American. The African American woman, the number 2 on the scene, was a police sergeant.
Yeah.
So this whole idea that it was racist cops, when three of the 6 were African Americans themselves.
Oh, I absolutely disagree with the rhetoric that it was racially charged based on that fact, and based on the fact that if you look at all of these high-profile cases, I don't think now there's. We really got to leave this for BLM, so I'll just leave it at that.
I think it falls under the category that anytime a black man dies under the protective care of white police, and it doesn't matter what color the police are. Apparently, police are always white. Like the Minnesota shooting, the guy was Asian, but somehow that became an anti-white. And I've even seen a comment online from a BLMer who said... racism comes from
white racism exists through all races except for black.
You don't have to be white to be white supremacist.
Shit like that you see, and it's like, what?
That was the most asinine and ignorant comment that I've ever read in social media ever.
And
how does white
I've got like a
racism
dozen here for you.
exist through other races?
Yeah.
You literally just pointed it out in non...
Okay. I just pulled a pin on this
Trying
Anyway.
to interpret that is they're trying to go about all cops, all politicians, and so forth, calling them, whether African American, Hispanic, Asian, as an Uncle Tom. That's what I think they were trying to, without, maybe they never read the novel or heard the term Uncle Tom, but they were trying to get to that they're Uncle Toms. They sold out. They tried to do something. They tried to step up, serve the community. They're one of them, so they sold out.
Okay, and I know we're going to get to this, but just in terms of a voice of reason, because being an African American, I come from a different place here. Understand that black people don't feel have been marginalized, have been overlooked. This is fact. This is not a perception thing. This is not an emotional thing. It has happened. And so enough of that happens, you're going to get ridiculous statements like that make no sense whatsoever. But if you understand why it happens...
Is it kind of like Caged Tiger?
Maybe. And you, there's a place where you can begin to say, this is why it happens. If that thing happened and there is a crowd growing, I might be saying something overly obvious here, but police are supposed to be smarter than criminals.
Yeah.
So, that's one of those dope things.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that if there is any possibility, gotta watch your 6, you gotta protect it because there's nobody else back there. I understand those circumstances, but any possibility of something that could happen that could incite that crowd turning into a riot storm, a firestorm, you do.
Well, certainly, and then let me ask you, because I think, again, a lot of this commentary is really getting into BLM, which we're going to touch on after the break. So, and I just want to say, I mean, reading the manifesto, all of these points will come to light. Every single one, where it comes to the safety of the civilian and the safety of the police officer. Sure. I think all of those points are going to be touched on. I do know that Chris has a little something for us. As
every week we've been doing now the last couple of weeks. weeks. This week in 1984, obviously a reference to George Orwellian ways, books and stuff. There was two that I was looking at. One that I was really thinking a little bit of more Animal Farm-ish, but I decided to let that go. That just had to do with the California, the 28-8 vote to make California lawmakers, politicians, basically exempt from all new gun laws.
Oh, yeah.
So, they're the pigs in the scenario.
Yeah, some politicians are more equal than others.
But Ben and I talked about it. This is, I think, the perfect one for this week in 1984. Go for it, Ben.
So, everybody's watching the Turkish coup news that came out over the weekend, and they're now wondering if it's an inside job or not, because obviously,
it is.
How do you even pronounce the guy's name?
Erdogan,
which I couldn't say 3 times fast if I tried to. But everyone's suggesting that the Turkish coup, which has now had 6,000 people arrested and over 250 dead, they're now suggesting that it's a false flag event staged by Erdogan in order for him to gain more power and do away with the democratic state of Turkey.
They're saying he gets to basically go through the ranks and cleanse out any non-believers of his dictator.
He's turning it into an Islamic state run by an Islamic government.
You mean a modern-day version of the Reichstag fire?
That's exactly it.
Sounds about applicable.
Yeah, and now he's also he's blaming this whole thing on somebody who's in Pennsylvania, and he wants the U.S. to extradite him, even though they haven't charged him. And they said, basically, if you don't extradite him, we ain't going to be friends anymore. And they are like the number 2 ally in NATO? Or something and they're on the border of all the ISIS countries, and so Turkey's one of those.
All of our
weird
military
ones.
airstrikes against Iraq and Afghanistan against ISIS is being done out of the air bases in Turkey, and they've already shut off the power, or at least they did over the weekend. I don't know if they've turned it back on or not, but they've shut off the power to those military U.S. bases, and have said, no, you will not fly anymore out of here until we get our demands.
You can't play with my toys until you bring over that CD of Prince.
Even though we built the base and built in their military infrastructure, but hey,
ridiculous. We're going to take a break. We are going to come back here. We got obviously the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about. We got Dylan Noble that we're going to be talking about coming up. We got some video. Obviously the video. You know the video. We've all seen it. We're going to be talking about that whole thing. We're going to be talking, obviously, about Black Lives Matter, which is something we touched on last week. We really wanted to get into this week, and then the whole world went to shit and forced our hand on this. So this is what we're going to be doing. We'll be taking a break. I'm going to let you listen to a little bit of Geoff Thurman's music here. We'll be back here. It's The Kick on... that's not Jeff.
It's my favorite song. Thank you very much. Maybe you remember me from this fart.
You've been moving some styles, I see.
We'll be back with Jeff, Chris, and the rest of the Kick here when we come back here on Longbox.FM.
You're listening to The Kick on Longbox.FM.
All right, the Kick here is back on Longbox.FM, brought to you, of course, by Riley's Brewing.
Cheers.
Thank you, Riley's.
And so, as I've been saying throughout the show, we do want to hear from you. Skype is open, Longbox.FM. Search it. You can call us 492-0450. It's on the screen if you're watching the YouTube. And if you are, the chat is there. Go ahead and chat it up. We'd like to get your opinions. Because now I think, for as much fun as that last thing was, we're going to get... and during the break, we were talking... I can tell this is going to be a heated segment. And this is, of course, we did it last week. We're going to be talking, of course... first, I want to hit up the Dylan Noble thing. Which is something my whole entire plan for this show was this, and then obviously people have to keep blowing people up and doing stupid shit. And we're also going to be talking about Black Lives Matters. So First off, the Dylan Noble thing. We know all about it now. Anyone in Fresno, you've seen it. It's national news at this point. 19-year-old kid gets shot by cops. He I guess the storyline, from what I understand, and I heard the whole press conference with Chief Jerry Dyer, there was officers dispatched in an area because of a call for a guy wearing camo who had an automatic gun or a rifle or something. So they went out there searching, and then apparently the kid came squealing out of a parking lot or something like that in his truck. They lit him up. He led him on a chase, they say, for half a mile, which just seems like 10 seconds to me.
Right.
And then pulled him over, told him, put your hands outside the window. He only did one. Then he got out of the car. They told him, we didn't tell you to get out of the car. Get back in the car. Eventually, long story short, I have the video, so I'll get that going so we can actually see this. Which sucks. If you haven't seen it and you don't want to see something brutal, probably look away for 2 minutes. But you can see everything from the body cams, which is the big thing we've talked about for weeks now. When I initially said I don't think they should release the body cams right away, because this is feeding into America's "give it to me now" mentality. And then when the cell phone video came out that showed the back half of it from a distance on the other side of the car, that's where I was like, okay, well, I guess Fresno PD, who has enough issues on its own, right. I mean, you can go through all the history, Keith Foster, shit like that. It was like, okay, well, now they have to do something.
Well, Fresno PD wasn't required to put the video out. They wouldn't have if it didn't prove that they were justified. They would only put it out if it benefited them.
True point. And so now the video came out, and here, let me dial it up here real fast so you guys can see it. Again, and anyone who's and I've listened to it on radio, I always warn you, be careful. This is brutal, but if you tune into the show, you know what you're going to get from us anyways. Here we go. Come on.
Henry, it looks like the vehicle is pulling over into the gas station at Armstrong and Shields.
Hey, let me see both of your hands. Let me see both of your hands. Let me see your hands. Get both of your hands out. Both of your hands.
3 Henry 11, start unit 03.
Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. Both hands, both hands. Keep your hands out where we can see them. Both of your hands. Other hand, right hand up. Right hand up. Give.
3 Henry 11, subject keeps reaching for his waistband.
Lay down on the ground. Lay down.
On the ground. Fresno Police Department, get down on the ground. Let up, dog.
Let the dog go. Let me see your hands. Good. Stop reaching.
Get down on the ground now.
Stop.
Get down on the ground now.
So at this point, his hands behind his back.
On the ground.
Stop.
Fresno Police Department. Drop whatever you have in your hand.
Drop.
Don't forward, you're going to get shot, man. Get down on the ground now.
Put your hands up.
Let me see your hand.
Hey, get your hands up.
Dude,
don't reach for your hands.
Quit reaching for what you got. Keep your hands up.
Keep your hands up.
Dude, if you reach one more time, you will get shot again. Stop.
So that's the video everyone's seen. I just saw a reaction from Jeff too on that. I mean, it's hard to watch. Now, there's been a lot of back and forth on this whole thing. Was he justified? The police? Whose fault was it? This is going to be the thing that has been and always will be the argument here, and you're getting it heated from all sides. I think. Look, to get into the head, you got a 19-year-old kid. And I remember being 19, also the same as 22 and 27. I was a jackass. My body was in the peak, and my mind was far from. And apparently he had just broken up with a girlfriend. There's talks about toxicology and if there's something, but take that out of it. The kid is full of bravado, huff and puff. He's pissed off about something. And I think this is just a part of modern-day America now where kids aren't growing up in the best of families, may not have the best of punishments for being bad, and the fact that you show up a cop like this, he led himself to getting shot. The cops begged him. They begged him. They were pleading because they let him know, we will shoot you. We don't want to, basically. Yeah. 43 commands. I know one argument is going to be, why do you have to consent to a cop? If they're telling you to get on the ground, you don't have to. Like, I get that a lot, and it's like, you know what? In the moment, you know who doesn't get shot? People who listen to cops.
I'm sorry.
For the most
point
part.
in time, I go back to because 22, I was that guy in that situation at 22. I'll tell that story a little bit later. But my father said to me when I was 14, 15, if you do not comply, if you do not obey, one of two things will stop you: a billy club or a bullet. Your choice. Mm-hmm. I got it. Mm-hmm. It didn't take 43 commands. I get that. My response to Chris at that point had nothing to do with shots 1 and 2. He may have still even been alive if it was just shot 1 and 2.
Yeah, now we get to the part where I'm not comfortable with this.
Yes.
Yeah. Shot 1 and 2 I felt where it was justified at that point, because in this era, especially now, I know this happened before Dallas, before Baton Rouge, which we will be chatting about in a second, but the war on cops, the heat going on has been around for a while. I have a clip I'll show here in a minute. The tension is up, okay, and these cops are showing up. I mean, they do have a hell of a job. There are bad cops, and I think this has been said to death. I don't want to do it anymore. The bad apple thing. We all know this now. Mm-hmm. If you believe all cops are bad, you're just a jackass. Right. And call me up, 492-0450, and tell me I'm wrong. The cops were justified, in my mind, shots 1 and 2. 3 and 4, it was a long break between 2 and 3, and I think 12 seconds between 3 and 4, which was the shotgun, the final kill. There were 4 cops there. Although I keep hearing 2, but I thought I saw in one video there was 4 cops.
I thought there were 2. There's definitely the one with the body cam and his partner. Yeah. I don't know if you never see if there were other 2. I always saw was the one cop car.
I think I'm going off the cell phone footage.
I was going to say the eyewitness video does show up to 4 cops.
Okay.
Now, if they all fired shots, I think it was only the lead cop and then his partner right behind him. Yeah. But the cell phone eyewitness video does show up to 4 cops.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to get too deep onto who was right, who was wrong. It's an unfortunate situation that has blown up.
This just, to me, looks like a situation of suicide by cop.
It feels like it.
I mean, what did he say after he turned around and started coming back?
I fucking hate my life.
Yes, I effing hate my life.
You could say it.
And I'm trying to be professional. I'm in a professional setting, and if there are students under 18, because I do have a professional life from here.
Okay.
When the mic's off, I cuss like a Marine. But
hoorah!
But he says, "I hate my effing life." He comes forward at the cops after being told to get on the ground, and he's still approaching. He's playing around in his waistband. Does he have something there? Does he not? You have that much time to decide. It's this. There's been a lot
the adrenaline rush.
Yes, and there's been a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking with this case. And at that point, he's been shot twice, and he's still reaching around in his waistband after being told not to. He's already got 2 bullets in him.
I've heard the argument, though, you get shot in the gut, you're going to reach for the pain. And yes, that makes sense.
That makes sense, but that's not where he was reaching.
And, I did love that Dyer did say, questionable, and we're going to have to look into it on those last 2 shots. I think everyone's in agreement. The last 2 shots, we're all not feeling good about this.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. Look, he's down on the ground, and even if he has some sort of a weapon, you're literally 15 feet from him, maybe less than that by the angle of the camera. Now, if at some point 2 shots doesn't take him down and subdue him enough to where you can't rush in as 2 to 3, 4 cops and subdue him.
Let's just say it's just 2.
Okay, so just 2. So take just 2. Now, if you're 2 police officers, you're standing, you're trained, you're armed, and you're ready, and you just shot this guy 2 times. He's down on the ground, especially when he falls forward at first, right? So then you get a good idea of, well, does he have something in the back of his pants? Then he rolls over, and it's like, you telling me that you couldn't see from 8 feet away that he's probably got something in his waistband?
Yeah.
I think that he fucked up because he absolutely did. You don't run at a cop or walk at a cop and scream things like he did and keep your hand behind your back. I mean, the dude's got to be on one for him to do something like that. Like, he's just testing him, right? Like, you're not going to shoot me. I'm pretty much convinced that that's what his mindset was. You're not going to shoot me. You're not going to do this. And then all of a sudden he gets shot.
Yeah. I can't say that bravado. I mean, stupid. Yeah. No question there.
Every 19-year-old
fatally
is
stupid at this
Thank
point.
you. But at the same point in time, I can't say that you necessarily say that he was just trying to test somebody at that point in time. I not knowing a whole lot about the story until after
well, you're 19.
the fact. But again, you're 19.
You're 19. You don't think they're going to shoot you because you're invulnerable.
And this is a generation of students who, for the last 25 years, have been able to tell their parents, their teachers, anybody in decent authority to F off. I'm going to do what I want. You can't make me. And there's always somebody somewhere, whether it's a helicopter mommy or daddy or an administrator or somebody that they can run to and say, this teacher or this person is being mean to me, and they're getting called to the carpet, and the kid's sitting back laughing. Just like what happened in Fresno a year ago, where a couple kids doctored a video to make a vice principal look like he was making a racist remark, and when the tech people got a hold of it and did whatever it is that you guys are the techies, you probably know.
You can hear edits.
What they do, whatever they do to edit, I don't know. You do, and said this is photoshopped. By the time they came out and said this is photoshopped, that had gone viral.
Damage was done.
Global.
Yeah.
And these kids sit back and laugh at it, watching the adults dangle. So they're not being told most growing up during those growing up years, and then they get out 19, 20 years old. Now they're confronting cops with guns that are giving them commands, and their whole life there has never been consequences, and now
the first one is fatal.
I have something from our interwebs here. First question was K9 ? And they even mentioned that in the video he did say get the dog, and then his comment here, now we'll just shoot him. The dog, from what I understand, policy is in a potential gun situation, you don't send in a dog who's unarmed. You deal with it with what you got. You got the body armor, the gun, or whatever. So that's what I've heard from something from Dyer from one of the or maybe on KMJ somewhere in this last week. So I've heard that. I could be wrong. I apologize in advance. He also talked about how the cop had his weapon out while driving to pull him over. It was unholstered. It was in his hand while they were still driving the car, which it sounds questionable. But again, if you're on a felon, and this is where I got into it with the PR lady with Stuart Chandler, with his PR woman. She said it was not a felony thing. It was a traffic stop, and he did not have camo. And look, in the moment, you're out there for a felony arrest. The thing going on there was a traffic stop, yes, but coming off of the tip that there was someone out there, and you got some guy screeching out and blowing past you. So it heightened sense of what's going on. I could imagine to get out of the car, have the gun ready.
Weren't they on the call for looking for somebody with a rifle?
Yeah, they were looking for someone who was armed.
So, now you see the kid. He's not in camo. He is not armed. Again, questions. Now, I would have liked to see. Now, if you get shot 1 and 2 in, how about the guy with the pistol? If there's only 2 cops, how come he doesn't just walk over to the kid with the shotgun ready? The guy with the shotgun ready to go, and try to subdue him, try to check his hand, try to lift his shirt, anything. desperately to say, let's not
Yeah.
kill shot this kid.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
First of all,
There are a million options.
Nobody's going to walk out in front of somebody else who has a shotgun as their backup when
My
they're
bad.
15 feet
Okay.
away. That's a bad strategy.
I'm not a gun. I've never shot a gun, so I don't know these things. Or then switch it. Let the shotgun guy put the shotgun down and walk. I mean, or pull his pistol.
No, the person holding the shotgun or the heavier weapon would be doing the stand back, and the person with the pistol would come around so that he would be at the person's 11 o'clock. He wouldn't walk between the perp and the person holding the shotgun, but it would come around so that if the person on the ground does anything, there's still that line of sight.
And there's no interjection in the line of fire.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
It didn't feel necessary. And Jeff, I think this is your point.
Absolutely not.
Now, there's a lot of talk. Why didn't we tase him?
Exactly.
Please tase me, bro.
Well, I don't know if tasing isn't, because there's a lot of people now. We've seen this now. There's a whole lot of people talking about bravado. There's a lot of people who can stand that tasing. As a matter of fact, there's some folks probably go, "Thank you very much."
Yeah.
But
by the way, next week Ben is going to get tased live here on the Kick.
Absolutely, I am.
For no particular reason.
I'm only standing in until Vanna steps up.
Wow,
taser challenge.
Nothing but love for you, guy. But there are, I guess. I come from a situation where, and I'll just go ahead and ask the question, which sounds like an absolute, that the mace comes out. Wow, scary.
Serious show here.
So
bravado right here. He wants to drink the mace.
Thank you, Steven Seagal.
She's practically begging me.
Ben puts that on his
May
popcorn.
I have some mace, please? Peppermint. Anyway, so you have. I'll go ahead and ask the question. It's a stupid question, but if you've got a choice between hell and something worse than hell, what are you going to choose?
I guess I'm going to hell.
You're going to hell,
That's
as opposed to
Hillary?
her. Now, but what happens? What happens if I tell you that you've got 19 other choices that don't have anything to do with either hell or something worse than hell, and you could make one of those choices be better? There are always options. He could have. If he looked like there was a possibility, one bullet in one arm, one bullet in the other one, whatever, you cripple the guy. Worst case scenario, there are a million things it could have done outside of taking his life.
Okay, we do know that the police are trained shoot to kill. If you have to shoot to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Police are also trained, as we learned when we had Karen Adele Scott on a few weeks back, when I asked the question, why is it when a perp gets hit by 17 shots by ex-cops, or X amount of cops, 17 bullet holes in him, and 168 shots fired? I'm like, how the hell does that happen? And she said they're not trained. Cops are trained, because she's an old deputy. She said cops are trained to reload. They're not trained to hit the target. They're trained to reload. So there's this training triggered in the mind as far as you fire off a clip. You're not, like, that's your training. That's your go-to. You just fire. And you could hear these guys had restraint. They were trying hard. But they still did the firing, and they didn't take the time to acknowledge a scene, to try to do anything different. The 19 options you're bringing up,
and you hear that
because they're training,
and you hear that a lot in some of these cases where, why did they have to fire 15 shots? Why did they have to fire 22 shots? Yeah, it goes to the training, but it's maybe because of internet, maybe because we have cell phones with cameras on them, that this reality is starting to set in for the general public who didn't know this before, and they're not feeling comfortable with it despite the years of watching Chips and Law and Order and all those other shows.
But see, the thing is, Chris, and the one thing I slightly disagree with you on this is the fact that the use of cell phones and the use of cameras did not turn cops into trigger-happy cops. Trigger-happy cops have been around forever and a day.
Sure. Yes,
and
sure.
they've used 19 shots to subdue a subject, whether it's 1954 or 2016. Sure. So all cell phones and media are doing now is bringing this situation to light.
And
in a day and age,
sensationalizing
yeah, it is, but we're also educating to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we're educating people on now is the fact that maybe, and I'd mentioned the fact that, like the BLM manifesto, I mean, it brings up 10 very different points that I've seen, but one of them is the use of police force. Now we're seeing videos of cops who shoot somebody 19 times when clearly we just saw from the Dylan Noble video, it only takes 2. One, maybe two, to put somebody on the ground. So the training is what we really need to emphasize on, because if it takes a cop or two cops or multiple cops, a handful of cops, if it takes them 19 shots to put somebody on the ground, there's something inherently wrong with the police training.
Yes.
Because police should not be taught to simply reload. Cops should be taught to make the effective strike with one round, and you and I are both in the Marines.
Were we taught?
I was going to say, you and I were both in the Marines.
But,
we learned how to shoot from 200, 300, and 500 yards out, and we could put a round on target.
I'm sorry, but I know this will probably piss off any police officer, but you're the Marines. You're not police. Police. Sure. I gotta imagine, and I'm pissing a lot of people off, and I'll have a ticket tomorrow. Police aren't the Marines, but the Marines are trained to take on terrorists or another culture, a big bad enemy.
We're taking away from the point. Police are
supposed to serve and protect, and
we're taking away from the point. The point is this: when a police officer goes into the range, you go into the range not to learn how to fucking reload. You go into the range. If you're going to the range to learn how to simply reload, then take the target down. Don't shoot on the target. Just fire blindly into the wall, and then just reload as fast as you can.
It's like Mel Gibson and Danny Glover in the original Lethal Weapon. You're going for head and you're going for chest.
Let's go back to this discussion we had during the break, though, because that's the point. You said we're not. This is not everything that you guys saw in Somalia,
and Kuwait, and
Iraq,
Kuwait.
Almost everything that you guys have seen in both of those things is now here. So maybe police should be trained like the Marines. Maybe they should. Maybe the training should be one of those.
I disagree.
Things.
I disagree to the simple end that obviously there are a lot more police contacts with civilians than there are Marine to civilian or Marine to enemy contacts. I really believe that that's the case, especially when you're talking about a structure and a country and a time where it's technically peacetime. I think that the cops, I think police officers nationwide, I think that if the problem becomes so widespread within a certain department or within a precinct, I think that there should be some sort of retraining for cops in order to learn how to use non-lethal force as the initial go-to in subduing a subject.
And let me clarify when you're trained something. In combat, aggressive action to take down the enemy, to shoot to kill, is the initial reaction. For cops and law enforcement on the street, that should be the last reaction.
Well, absolutely. And let me clarify. I'm not talking about getting people in FPD or anybody else, everybody to become Rambo. I'm talking about that whole mindset of the aiming. If it's one shot that's going to take you down, one shot is all you need. You guys knew that because of the circumstances that you were in. Maybe we don't. I mean, obviously, we don't need to have that kind of a thing. We do need to have that being the last resort. The absolute last resort, but there has to be some sense of some sort of training to go beyond.
Okay, let me hop in on this. And again, by the way, for those, and we got some chatter going on the inter-Twitter webs. 492-0450 if you want to call in and act in on this,
please.
We're talking about one shooting here, obviously very heated, big thing. There were two things I wanted to get to here. And again, we can go all night on this, and we've been doing this all week, and unfortunately, there were terrorist attacks and other shit that got in the way that's distracting from this matter. Regardless of the outcome of this Dylan Noble thing, regardless of the training and all that, we now have to deal with responsibility and going to court, deciding who's right, who's wrong. Did the cops do it bad? No one is going to trust the outcome of this, because it's the cops investigating the cops tell you that the cops were okay. And in the cynical mindset of the world that we live in now, no one believes it because people hate cops. There is a war on cops at this point. No one trusts them.
Yeah.
Anywhere. This is why you get things like Baton Rouge and Dallas going on. I would like to suggest, and this is why I was really hoping for a city council member to be in here tonight, an idea, something that maybe Fresno can do. Because, by the way, on the two protests that we had for BLM, no arrests. No broken windows. Nothing. Goddamn, Fresno of all places, we did well. That's a step up, right? My idea is if in any event like this that happens, there should be a tribunal. I don't know if that's the right word, but we should have a rotating group of, let's say, one of 3 lieutenants in Fresno PD, one of 3 IA, one of all the city council members, and 4 citizens selected by, like a grand jury setup, by like 3 judges. And that way, citizens outrank or outnumber the elected or appointed officials, but to listen to the evidence and decide whether or not this cop should be tried. At that point, the cop is done. He can't be he's off until the end of the trial, and if it's decided he's guilty or whatever, I mean, he's a citizen at that point.
Don't they already have internal affairs, and then they go to
see, but there's too many questions.
That's cops taking care of cops.
Cops taking care of cops.
I'm looking for a way that
some places internal affairs are the most hated.
Yes,
people
but no one trusts.
cops.
No one trusts it, and that's why I'm saying if you put citizens in.
But they have a grand jury system, don't they? Do they automatically go to a grand jury?
Isn't the grand jury pretty much kind of a mouthpiece of the district attorney, though, or is that?
Well,
am I wrong?
They're private citizens that serve, I believe.
But I'm talking about a setup that's got.
I'm not a legal expert. I could be wrong, but from what I understand,
Kevin,
what's up?
Grand jury.
Don't know enough about it.
I don't know. This is just an idea that I've been formulating and thinking about, like something that we could do that would. Transparency-ish, something that takes it away from the cops investigating the cops type of thing, and try to start, and here's the point, to start rebuilding trust in our police force. I mean, training, that's a whole other issue and a whole other show, something I know nothing about. All this stuff is something that can grow into something bigger, but just an idea, something to throw out there, something that we could do to start, because we need to start making bridges. We got too many gaps here.
Yes.
And you know, Dylan Noble this thing's going on way further here tonight than I wanted it to without the people that I wanted here for it. Do you want to take it to the next thing? God, now I got to figure out where I want to go with this. Obviously, we were talking about the big one this weekend, Baton Rouge, that went down. And this goes in the Black Lives Matter. We know there is a war on cops. Sorry. Give me a second. I'm dialing up I'm having my KMJ moment. Shh, don't give me any crap. All right, here we go. This was from 2 years ago. This is from the police chief in Wisconsin.
What's your response to some of the people that thought you were being disrespectful by being on your phone and not being attentive to them?
Well, I was on my phone, and yes, that's true. I was following developments with a 5-year-old little girl sitting on her dad's lap who just got shot in the head by a drive-by shooting. And if some of the people here gave a good goddamn about the victimization of people in this community by crime, I take some of their invective more seriously. The greatest racial disparity in the city of Milwaukee is getting shot and killed. Hello. 80% of my homicide victims every year are African American. 80% of our aggravated assault victims are African American. 80% of our shooting victims who survived their shooting are African American. Now, they know all about the last 3 people that have been killed by the Milwaukee Police Department over the course of the last several years. There's not one of them can name one of the last 3 homicide victims we've had in this city. Now, there's room for everybody to participate in fixing this police department, and I'm not pretending we're without sin. But this community is at risk, all right. And it's not because men and women in blue risk their lives protecting it. It's at risk because we have large numbers of high-capacity, quality firearms in the hands of remorseless criminals who don't care who they shoot. Now, I'm leaving here to go to that scene. And I take it personally, okay? We're going up there, and there's a bunch of cops processing a scene of a dead kid. And they're the ones that are going to be out there patrolling and stopping suspects that may have guns under the front seat. They're the ones that are going to take the risks of their lives to try to clean this thing up. All right? We're responsible for the things we get wrong, and we take action. We've arrested cops, we've fired cops, and so on. But the fact is that the people out here, some of them, who had the most to say are absolutely MIA when it comes to the true threats facing this community, and it gets a little tiresome. And when you start getting yelled at for reading the updates of the kid that got shot, yeah, you take it personal, okay? Now, no offense, but I'm going up there now.
So, 2 things. First of all, was he wrong?
I like how you're applauding now, but when we were talking about Black Lives Matter, you were saying that the statistics were the same. This guy just basically proves that the statistics are.
No,
there's.
Wait, what?
That was last week. I can get into this, Vanna. I have done. No, look over the last 2 weeks.
Hold on, let Jeff.
Over the last 2 weeks,
Jeff,
I think.
Hold
we're okay.
on.
Jeff's got
let
a
Jeff
point.
say something.
Jeff's got a point.
Was he wrong? Everything he said was dead on point. And on 2 sides of the matter. And for that, Fresno leadership, Fresno councilmen, local BLM people. Where the hell are you?
Wouldn't you love that?
This?
Wouldn't you love that conversation here right now from somebody?
It now.
One leader.
I want it now. Pastors, where are you now? Are we so afraid of our spirituality that we can't stand in a room with somebody that's going to say fuck? Seriously? Come on.
Fuck no.
Wait, figure. I mean, this is my frustration. This is what I've been saying. I can't remember who got killed. I got a call, which was for me the coolest thing in the world. Getting a call from a bunch of rappers over Facebook, and I messaged a guy. He says somebody wants to do some music, and so I said I'm up. I don't have anything else. He told me what he's doing. They were affected by the death. They were affected by the shooting, and they had to say something. Did I care what they were wanting to say? Absolutely not. The fact is they were wanting to do what we're doing here.
Thank you.
Where's the rest of the people? Like you said, we're the talking heads that do the stuff on social media. Where are we going to...
we're not Power Talk or KMJ, so we won't get the high level.
Surely
we should see about getting Sean. He's very vocal.
I think we shouldn't cut ourselves short to a point because, I mean, obviously this is still a very fledgling show.
Well, no, I think what we said in the beginning is their political careers here. Now, Chief Jerry Dyer, he's very good at talking on a mic. He would never say what just happened there. He says that in a much more political way. That guy, you got emotion, you got real. Now,
he got real.
To take
he got angry because he was getting updates on his phone, which, don't we all get... Where do we get our updates nowadays? On
everything.
On our devices. What do you say to people that are saying you're on your phone?
The studio lights up with updates.
Why were you on your phone? Well, yeah, he was getting the up-to-date information at that moment, and they were trying to make it sound like he didn't care and he was.
Well, let
whatever.
me take this one step further. Now we're breaching into that BLM stuff. When we talk about the Dallas shootings, Baton Rouge. All that, and again, I wish I could have given more time to Baton Rouge tonight. I spent 30 hours watching it this weekend, or however long that Don Lemon and CNN was going about it.
Right. Or Shepard Smith.
Oops.
Here's the problem. This is why I don't like Black Lives Matter. This is why I don't like All Lives Matter. Or Blue Lives Matter. And last week when I said, and I got Vanna's head just snapped on me right now, she did it last week too, same with Ben, I like the KKK. I like Westboro Baptist because they show you who they are.
Oh,
they announce who they are, so you know you don't have to deal with them.
You got me doing a Black Mama routine.
I don't like all these movements, hashtag movements, because we're taking away. We're dividing ourselves.
You don't understand my generation.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't. Let me emoji my point to you. Hashtag
so
floppy face.
Mr. Sleepy.
No, we need to stop with this type of bullshit that separates us. And now, okay. All shootings are done by white cops on black men, right?
No.
Well, you'd hear differently if you look at the internet. This is I love this interview.
But guys, I got to stop you there. We're smarter than this.
Yes,
we are smarter than this. But this is the point he's trying to make.
This is a smart. I love this guy. The chief, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure where he is, but I think Wisconsin.
He was the Milwaukee police chief.
Milwaukee.
He's not the Milwaukee sheriff that you see on TV all over the place. He's the chief of police of the city.
Okay, he's sitting with Don Lemon, which has been a disgrace for black
that's
men.
the county sheriff. That's the sheriff of Milwaukee County.
All right, let's listen in.
Spoke to the heads of the sheriff department, the police department, and the state police down there, and they told us how their hearts were reeling. Their message is peace and coming together in the country. What's your message?
You don't believe that for 1 minute, do you?
That their message is?
Yeah.
That's what they said to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe them. Of course
Any protests over the deaths of these cops today in Baton Rouge?
I don't know that.
Any riots or protests over the police officers in Dallas, Texas?
What are you asking?
It's a pretty simple question.
I asked you what's your message to the people. Their message is one of peace. What is your message?
My message has been clear from day one 2 years ago. This anti-cop sentiment from this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter has fueled this rage against the American police officer. I predicted this 2 years ago. So what I want to know.
Okay, Sheriff.
Do I want to know?
With all due respect, do you know that this was because of that?
Yes, I do.
As a law enforcement officer?
I've been watching this for 2 years. I predicted this. This anti-police rhetoric sweeping the country has turned out some hateful things inside of people that are now playing themselves out on the American police officer. I want to know, with all of the black-on-black violence in the United States of America, by the way, when the tragedies happened in Louisiana and Minnesota, you know that 21 black people were murdered across the United States? Was there any reporting on that?
There was a black officer who was killed today. But
was there any reporting on that?
Sheriff, please, let's just keep the volume down here. So I understand, and listen,
I'm looking at 3 dead cops this week, Sheriff, and I'm looking at 5 last year. You trying to tell me to keep it down?
If you will just please, we can keep it civil. So because the message to people at home, I'm sure you want, is one of civility.
I wish, Don, I wish you had that message of civility.
Have a conversation
toward this hateful ideology, these purveyors of hate.
You don't know what my message is.
That's
what I want
they
to say
do.
to you is
these people preach vile and virtue
we'll be right
in the
back.
name
We're
of
going to go to
hate.
break, and we'll be right back.
Wow. Thank you, media.
Jesus Christ. What a fucking circus. And what you saw there was, in the first video, a white police officer supporting his community no matter what, and then a black police officer obviously attacking BLM for what he believed was being a hateful movement. I'm just going to get this out of the way really quick. Vanna, I love you to death.
Oh, God, we're going to do this?
What's love got to do with it, Tina Turner?
Exactly. No, you could call me Ike. To you.
Wow. No, okay.
I guess he's about to hit me.
No, hold on.
Wow.
Ben, stop. Just stop. And this is why we do the show. Again, they were just talking about. They were just talking about a civil discussion, and you know what? This is what we do week to week. Even though this, like right now, this is actually nothing. I like that Don Lemon is being shut down by a guy, and the media is supposed to be reporting stuff. The media reports what they want, what is sensationalizing.
Yeah.
What can work now? Black Lives Matter focuses on all these black kids who are being killed by police, or not. That's not the focus, but that is what media loves to focus on. The other thing that I always hear is the black on black murder. Mm-hmm. And no one in media ever touches this one. No. I did come across a website today that I absolutely I got soaked into. Chicago is one of the biggest that we know of. Black on black murder. To the point it's not like a kid dies every week. It's like 60 a week. And Obama, he claims it as his hometown. You'd think in 8 years he would have taken a little special pride to make sure to anything possible to push this, but we keep pushing the wrong aspects. We keep pushing the BLM, the ALM, the whatever M, the hashtag of something, and who gives a shit. We don't push how do we bridge, how do we gap.
But Chris, part of this is the why the people do give a shit. I just had this conversation with a dear friend of mine, colleague in Nashville. We're talking about what the whole thing was about. Imagine how ludicrous, how absolutely ridiculous it is that a group of people who feel marginalized, who feel abused, who have been, and not have been factually done it, have to actually say something that seems like it's a no duh. Black Lives Matter. But the reason that they have to say that is because some people don't believe that.
Yep.
And that is the lunacy of why it's so important. Now, here's the problem with ALM. ALM, as much as everybody agrees, it marginalizes the fact that they're being marginalized. Mm-hmm. That's wrong. So, How do we do this? We don't get groups. We get one-on-one. We get dialogue like this. We do what we're doing here all over the place, all over the nation, and Turkey and Nice and all these other places, so that we begin to do it. If we see one-on-one, I can't tell you how many times in the last 2 weeks I've had conversations with somebody going, I don't understand what the problem is. I've got black friends. You know what? I don't have black friends and white friends and Muslim friends. I've got friends. Krista, I met 3 new, very cool people that I have a hell of a lot of respect for that before tonight I did not have respect for because I didn't know them. Not because I didn't have respect for them, because I didn't know them. I didn't know that they existed to have respect for them. 2 guys that put themselves in harm's way. Another person who's a sweetheart, absolute sweetheart. And so this just adds to my knowledge base. This adds to my heart because there's 3 more people that I get to love. That's how this works.
That has been put into how you just described BLM. You've just
on the mic.
Described it into a way that hasn't been described in the media or anywhere else. But with that said, what's being done in that name, when you have protests saying pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon, what do we want? Dead cops. That shuts down everything else.
Because the loud voices are angry.
Exactly, and that's what people watch on TV. They don't want to watch people having what we're having here. That's why you guys are listening to us.
Productive for the big people.
Fine, let's have a discussion. But when you're chasing Trump supporters across a green grass in San Jose to beat them up because you disagree with 1 or 2 of their point of views, that negates everything.
And I gotta agree with that, but at the same time, I was at Fresno's very own Trump protest at the.
I was inside at Selma Arena.
I was the girl out there with the Republicans Against Trump sign. Only one arrest was made. It was very nonviolent. We cleaned up the trash after. Me personally, I go up to the cops and I make a point to thank them for protecting us.
Yeah,
and there were
Fresno was an example of how it should have been read.
Yes,
not like what happened in San Diego or San Jose.
They completely focused on that one arrest that was made, and it's exactly what goes to ratings. They want to show the stuff that's negative. They don't want the people to see that there's a discussion that people could have responsible ideas.
Fresno was boring. There weren't any fights. There weren't any protests. You had a woman back up against UFC. A wall, having things thrown at her, being spat at, and having her life threatened. And you had the police on the inside. What probably happened there, having been a part of the Trump event at Selma Arena, was the Secret Service, I'm assuming, ordered a lockdown. And when that happens, nobody goes out, nobody comes in. So the cops and law enforcement are seeing this happen to this woman, but the Secret Service says, no, you don't go out there. You keep everything locked in. We are locked down. That's what I think happened there at that one incident. But if it was about Black Lives Matter and trying to bring attention to people are dying, fine. But when you're chasing somebody across the grass, when you're sneaking up behind a couple of Trump supporters and you're sucker punching them in the back of the head, that negates anything you're trying.
Okay, hold on.
The point you're trying to get across.
No,
stop.
Of anything.
Okay, the Black Lives Matter. Tangents are set right on top of it, and this is part of the problem with the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
There is no solid movement. This is like years ago. I sat and did an interview with someone for Occupy Fresno. I said he told me there's no leaders. We are a movement. This is what we want. Okay. I said, what do you want? We want change. Okay. What stops us camping out? What change do you need? We just want change. Huh? What? There was no direct leadership.
Do you want 2 quarters and a dime? What are you saying?
Idiots.
There was no clear
now,
message.
And here, Black Lives Matter.
I have to interrupt you because I was actually part of some Occupy Fresno. There was actually a movement when it came to and there was change. We wanted people to be represented by who they were supposed to be represented. Personally, I used to be on the Fresno Unified School District Board of Education. I was one of 2 student trustees that represented over 71,000 students. And when we found out that Tony Vang didn't even live in the district that he was supposed to be representing, representing, we organized a walkout. And that's what the whole We Are the 99% movement was somewhat about. It was about education. It wasn't just about this huge idea. Certain people took it and they took it and made it personal. That's what Fresno did in some aspects.
That's what all these things are doing.
Yeah, and a lot of the movement wasn't televised or properly reported upon, and
which
I have to blame a lot of people.
Right?
Yeah, and it needed to be. But on the other hand, we did have a walkout, and change actually did happen. Tony Vang actually is no longer. He got basically voted out because of that. And me being on the board, it's honestly disrespectful. How can you represent something that you know nothing about?
Right. Yeah.
And that's the whole reason why we have people in office and why we have these rules.
I think
they need to be followed.
With the BLM, I think there are people who destroy the image. Now, we can always reference the Al Sharptons.
And people have to seek truth, and,
I read
more
something,
than one source.
I read this thing about BLM and why they don't want white people at their rallies. From this girl. I can't remember her name.
Who said that? Because I have never once seen that.
It's
on my page.
Seattle protests? The one that shut Bernie Sanders down? You're talking about that lady?
Hold on. Here we go. Okay, I had to search deep. It was a couple days ago on my Facebook page. The writer was Alicia Shackelford. She said, for people who want to attend Black Lives, reason why she doesn't want white people there, she says, you're part of the problem. We don't want you there supporting us. We're trying to make our own thing. Start off going, okay. I'll buy into this. She later follows up in her statement. This has been posted through Twitter. I know, Vanna, you got the faces. We've talked about this before when we talked about people saying things like kill Whitey and stuff, and you say you've never seen this. You're not following the ones that apparently I'm seeing, which
Maybe
is
these people
which
who
I
are
wish I was you.
Twitter accounts with 12 followers. I mean,
now this one's big enough. Okay. But at one point, she says that all white people need to give up all of their belongings, all of their money, because it's been earned on stolen It's stolen money off the backs of black people. You need to buy me laptops, computers. You need to get out. I've had enough of these things that I've seen where I've gotten so mad that I'm like, you know what? I agree. If you and BLM feel that you need to have all of my belongings and wealth, tell you what, come through. Let's value everything, and I want the equivalent in slave labor.
What are you?
What?
No, if I'm going to be punished, if you're going to try to make your dime off of attacking white people, whatever. And again, this is all taken away from the point of what it's supposed to be. But you see, I'm going through these thoughts. I'm going through this anger of reading this, going, "What the fuck?" Yeah. And going, well, now you've taken me completely away from the point of your your movement. Thank you.
And to that, again, understanding why she says what she says is one thing. Is it completely ridiculous? Absolutely. I'm a black guy. I'm going, what?
Mm-hmm. Is what Chris saying completely ridiculous? Yes.
No, but
had a good point.
I started shaking my head when you got to that first statement.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely started shaking my head when you started. It's like, no. I'm like my father at that point in time going, girl, you must be crazy. Because that's how ridiculous that sounds. You want to bring people together. You don't want to bring people together by telling them they have to get in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
No.
There's no protesting something in a combined fashion. When you're all against something, you're all against something, and right. If you're all for something, you're all for something. And I understand now, after a little bit of research and a hell of a lot of reading, that yes, Black Lives Matters is some way exclusive, because we all need to be educated on the fact that, yes, Black lives do matter and black people are marginalized. And you know what? I feel for people in the black community who are marginalized to that point or feel like they are, because I think we all need to do a better job at just being fucking human. I personally believe that it doesn't matter if you could all get around seeing where you come from as, the individual person that you're categorized as. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to live a way more fulfilling life. There's nothing better than to sit down with people who are all different from you. Like you said, the talks. Geoff, you mentioned the one-on-ones. I mean, everybody sitting down in a room having a conversation and everybody coming to an agreement on some level. It doesn't matter what background you come from. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter your political affiliations, your sexual orientations. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's conversations like this tonight happen in a more widespread and frequent fashion.
You have to be accepting of people.
That's right.
Geoff, question for you.
Yes, sir.
My thoughts. One of the things that I think is going wrong with Black America. Now, there's a lot of bad. There's a lot of, did you say marginalization?
Yes.
The families.
Yes.
The values. Martin Luther King, 60s. I mean, you guys, Black fought through a shit ton of horrible stuff. Hundreds of years worth of build up to this point. And it was strap on your boots, be a better man, push through, don't be violent, don't be angry. And goddamn, you got laws enacted by a bunch of white men who didn't want that. Good thing. Now, decades later, has the family deteriorated so much to the point that things are going backwards? In a lot of stuff I view, I feel like things are going backwards. With this, it's me, which is all races. Mm-hmm. But there's just a lot, like, when you have no dads, and there's a lot of no dads in the Black community. There's a lot of and it happens in all things. But when you're talking about numbers, statistics to a smaller march, I don't know. I'm just babbling now.
35% of white houses are single parent now too. It's getting up to well over.
We're all getting there.
Yes,
but is there a problem? And now you're a pastor. Is there a problem in the Black community with family, religion, values that is just destroying the fabric of everything that's been built for hundreds of years to the point of 1960, and then 50 years later, we're here?
I don't think you have a problem in the Black community. I think you have a problem in the community.
Yeah.
It's bigger than that. Now, here's the problem. What we end up doing is we end up compartmentalizing. We'll deal with the white problem with families, and let's go deal with the Black problem with families, or we deal with the Hispanic, or whatever. We got to deal with the gay issue, or we got to deal with the Christians, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. There are issues that have to do with the fact that there is just evil. There's this world is evil. I'm not preaching. This is just fact. I mean, go through the stuff that happened to this week and then say that there's nothing wrong with the world. You are out of your damn mind at that point. Okay? So there are not a lot of fathers and not a lot of families. So what do we do about that? I think it's probably safe to say that here in this, there's not a Hillary supporter here at all.
No.
I think they're safe to say that. However, one thing that she said, well, I'll say it this way. She coined the phrase that 9 of my mamas when I was a baby. It really did take a village. How did I know that? Because when I screwed up as a second grader and walked down the street because I knew I was going to get my ass kicked from my mama when I got 9 other whoopings from those other mamas down the street. It really does take a village. Mm-hmm. So we have to get past some of these things. We take ownership of one another. Okay? Yeah. I have a daughter. I have 4 grandkids. Now, I'll also tell you that I've got 500,000 other children in the world. Because of the stuff that I've done. I've spent 40 years on the road going, I've been all over the world. I've been in Africa. I've been in Brazil. I've been in Peru. I've been, Florida to Iowa, all these, to Idaho. And there are kids that sometimes they come to be a part of me. I spent some years, got off the road and did a music thing where I ended up teaching music to K through 8. Some of those kids are on are Facebook friends of mine, and we chat every once in a while. There's a kid that might be coming. There's a kid. He's a dad now. Might be coming out to hang out with us here a little bit. That's how this goes. We take responsibility for one another. That's how that gets fixed.
Well, then this goes to my point of leaders. Then
I like that you say that it takes a village, because think about it. Like, they go to school half the time.
But the corner.
My mama said it before her now.
It's
But thank you.
common sense. I mean, that's just womanly advice.
But the corners. But
like you have to have a good community around you, and I think that when people become
Ladies and
aware
gentlemen,
of
we have a
things like
caller.
this,
Hold on.
There we go.
Hi.
Hello.
This is Deborah calling. I want to call and back up that pastor's comment about ownership of each other.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling in. How are you tonight?
Doing fine, thank you.
All right. What you got for us?
Oh, okay.
Oh, by the way, caller, Mom, can you turn the volume down in the back?
Okay. I didn't know I was going to get on that fast. Sorry. I should know better.
Okay, go ahead.
I love the pastor's comment about the fact that we need to take ownership of each other. And I have an example of this that I was traveling recently. We were in Germany. I'm in my little group of tourists getting toured around the city. We approach an intersection where there's no traffic, little narrow street, red light. We all stop. And somebody just says, can we just go ahead and cross since there's no traffic? And she says, hang on, just give me a second here. Let me take a look around. And she looks and she looks and she says, okay, we can go. And he says, is there like a law that you can cross the street on red if there's no traffic? She says, oh, no. I just want to make sure there was no children around because we need to set a good example.
Yeah.
And I thought that was amazing that she had ownership of other children. She wasn't going to let us cross against the red light if there were children there who would have seen us behave that way.
That's
and
how
we
it
need
works,
more
Deborah.
of that attitude here.
Yes.
Well, you're absolutely right, Mama Dowdy, because we need leadership by example. We really do, and I think that you did the best job that you could with Chris, but we're still wondering where the apple
I
fell
always
so
say
far.
he was my experimental child, so.
That's all right. A little bit of the acid back in the day never hurt nobody except for Chris.
Hey, Mom, thanks for calling.
That's all I wanted to say. Thanks, guys. Great show.
Deborah. Thank you for chiming in.
Actually, she brings up the point that, and I started this entire show with this. We need our leaders. And that's city, state, country, and we're talking now in our community.
Yes.
We need our pastors, our black pastors. We need our white pastors. We need our Muslim leaders to stop or to reach out to those guys I think might become radicalized. We need leaders to step up and start taking control. Start recognizing people. Start acknowledging people. Right? Is that how we get better? Because we can enact any law possible right now to prevent everything. Cops need to now be in full body armor, ready with the super taser gun to just nullify. And like we can build up arms, or we can. I think if we start working from the inner workings, the community, the people, like actually make it a goddamn community. We don't have that anymore. How many people know their neighbors anymore? That's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
I know mine. I grew up here.
I know people across the country that you never met through Facebook, but the person right next door to you don't even know their name.
You don't see a whole lot of it. I know in some of the places I've lived, there's actually studies so that people actually know this. They can time how long it takes to get from where they are, and they know at a certain point they can go ahead and press their button, and they can that automatic car door thing opens up, and they can just drive right on because they don't have to have any connection with anybody.
Yeah.
So and you're absolutely right. But and let me bring another side of this because I know a lot of folks. They do it all the time, and they're doing it now in this whole election cycle. Trump is going to, Hillary is going to, whomever is going to. I heard somebody say at one point in time they read someplace that a gentleman wrote, as soon as Obama is elected, racism is gone. You're gonna put an entire issue of whatever it is on the backs of one guy who's a human.
Yeah.
That guy's not going to do a damn thing. I don't care who it is. That guy's not going to do it. Anybody, anyone.
And with the
Trump comes in,
what people are saying about Hillary and her being a woman about the issue for feminism.
Yeah,
it's not.
Feminism is going to be gone once she's gone. No, that's not going to be the work. Trump is
because with Obama, racism went away.
Right. Trump is purportedly running as the law and order candidate. That's a joke. They run against themes, and they have their 5-second things, and people are just unfortunately dumb enough to go for that thing.
So they're saying that he's the new American outlaw sheriff.
The
right?
sheriff is in town. It's ridiculous.
I know if Kevin was here, he would probably peek up and talk about. We're all run by this oligarchy. We are all pawns. It doesn't matter. This is all just strings being pulled, and that's fun. Let the rich, or Vanna, you said 99. Let the 1% run it. Let's let all those people have all that.
But when
we can still have our community.
But when you were talking about leadership, remember this is a country due ordained and established. We believe that our rights, our freedoms, come from God, not from Washington D.C., Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. And every election day,
I'll disagree to a point, just because I don't think God is prevalent in communities and society as much as it was 40 years ago. It's just not a thing.
But when we've chased him out of society, he just says, "Hey, you know what?" Yeah,
but you can
we've chased out religion like we've chased out common sense, we've chased out being a neighbor, like we've chased out American values.
Yeah, I'll make Jeff Bristle here on this one, but maybe we can replace God. Here we go. With community, maybe we can.
I'm not going to bristle. No, I'm not going to bristle.
Where I'm going with? Maybe if you don't have the religion, you can bring in the community.
Here's the thing. Because this is I hear this, and every time I hear this pisses me off. We got to bring more God bring God back into the nation. Praise Jesus. Jesus got to be part of this nation.
Those guys are full of shit.
You know what?
Thank you.
The only way that works is if I do it. I have to do that. Everywhere I go, I tell my kids to do that. There's not going to be a law that's going to make God part of this thing. I don't care who it is. Jesus, Muslim, Shecky Green, figure it out. That you're exactly right when you say replacing God with community, and that's what that is. When we actually look at one another with respect and honor, and how satisfying this kind of thing can be. Everywhere. I do remember a time when there was a point in time where you could be driving someplace and you used to wave at somebody like that instead of looking your face down. We used to remember these things. It did happen.
I started something at the beginning of this year on my Wednesday night show. A hashtag, because we love our hashtags. It was hashtag Make Fresno Better. Mm-hmm. It was a simple concept. I tried to do the challenge thing, so tag 10 people, but it wasn't broad strokes. It was smile at someone, open the door for somebody, right. Be polite. Let's change the attitude of this town. It was a simple concept, and just like you said, you wave at people. I always try to smile. I try to make eye contact. I try to do those things just to maybe someone's having a shitty day, but when someone opens the door or when someone just smiles at them, it seems to make a little crack in that shitty hardened heart that you have that moment.
True story. Happened to me. I was on contract with Glenn, and Glenn sent me to Manhattan to work with a guy, and so I flew in there, and I got in this taxi with this fella, Ukrainian dude, I believe it was, and I said, "So how's your day today?" Stiffed me. You know how they are, black people. And I went, "Really?" Black people do that to you? Yeah, they always cheat you. They always cheat you like that. Is it? So black people do that? You can never trust them. You can never trust them at all. And I said, okay, well, I'm sorry for that. But as for this African American, I promise that I will not cheat you. Right? You are not black. And this is the other side. Now, don't even get me going that way.
You got me on that too.
So he goes, you are not black. Yes, sir, I am black. You are not black. You're French. I'm black. You're Greek. You're black. You're Italian. Black. He's going through the whole alphabet. And I said, sir, two things. First, I'm an African American. And secondly, if I got ripped off, I'd feel pretty crappy myself. Tears. My heart is in my hand. My heart is in my hand. Every time, wherever I was going to meetings for a couple of weeks back and forth, I said, hello, buddy. It was that made his day. Mm-hmm. That made his day. And if you just treat, everybody that way, everyone deserves respect. I see these Marines coming out of, and I hear about it a lot of times where somebody says, hey, let me go ahead and buy you a cup of coffee. I just say, thank you. When I see a policeman, thank you, because I know you're putting your life in the line, and I appreciate it. And a whole lot of people don't appreciate what you do. I'm grateful. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a thank you, and sometimes they look at me like, who the fuck are you?
and sometimes you think too to yourself, like it's really a matter of common sense and decency, which people are losing day by day because we're so damn caught up in who we are in our daily lives and our phones and our social media and everything else. And so you got to look at that. You listen to that cab driver and you say to yourself, like, this guy really doesn't understand it. Like he takes a couple of bad experiences and bases that on the way he's going to think about everybody in that particular category, right? Mm-hmm. So one corrupt cop represents all corrupt cops. Yes. One black criminal represents all black people, right. Which none of the above is fucking true whatsoever.
I'll go with that. My early 20s, frat party over by Fresno State. Mm-hmm. Walking out after a frat party to go to my car, got jumped by two black men. And I know there was a 3-day period that when I said fuck all and bombs. It had that hatred.
That long?
3 days. It was 3 days later
a couple of years for
that
me,
I went, you know what? I can't do this. I can't allow two assholes to make me hate a race, to make me stereotype or justify people as you were this, or put them in a box. Mm-hmm. And it was that point, and I had let it go. I take everyone for who they are, how they are. You know what? If you're an asshole, you're an asshole, and that's it.
Yep.
So, but it's hard to do that when you go through anything. People either go through traumas and blame a race, or people grow up with that. Now, my family, there's members in my family that my father's side that I absolutely hate and I don't even talk to. Their roots are Missouri. So you can imagine what that comes through, and we just have the understanding that they'll just die. They're those racist people, and we hope that. And again, generational. Now, generational, we're supposed to get better. There's more acceptance. There's more growth, and this is what's frustrating me right now. It doesn't feel like we're getting better. It feels like we're regressing as an entire country and world.
We're getting angrier, and we don't know what to do with the anger. It doesn't have. It's. That's why I'm saying it's this. The one thing that the Wisconsin, the Milwaukee. The
Milwaukee guy, the
Lemon
Sheriff
Clark, that guy. The one thing that he was saying, he was dealing with a situation and it was highly emotional. And yeah, media tends to go ahead and find that hot button, and they're going to go ahead and press that hot button. But it didn't have anything to do with Black Lives Matter. It didn't have anything to do with the cops. It had everything to do with the anger and the rage. It's out of control, and nobody knows what to do with that.
You know, I came into the show talking about how this has been a shitty week. This weekend, I thought I was ready for the show at the start of the weekend, and then Baton Rouge happened. And I was like, come on, man. Yep. I told when both Jeff and Chris, both of you guys walked in, how you doing? Shitty. Depressed. This sucks. I was not looking forward to the show. I've been much happier as the show goes. We had some levity, but talking, goddamn, it does an amazing thing. Just talking, right? So why can't we get people together to talk? Why can't we get leaders here to talk? Why can't we get people talking instead of emojiing or putting out a press release or putting out just terrible news? Can we just acknowledge that all news is just bad?
Because
like I've had people tell me, like,
on the Kardashians.
You're a really good journalist. Good job, Dowdy. I'm not a journalist. I'm not news. I'm not that.
Yeah.
I'm just somebody who wants to talk. I want to talk about anything and take any perspective and go at it. If Ben and Vanna have an issue with something, I want to hear it from both of them because that's what we're doing here. That's what I want. And I'll say in the last 2.5 hours now, I feel a lot better than I did before the show started, just by talking. And I've been heated, I've been going, but I feel better because it's a little bit of
it's a release.
It's a kettle. Yeah, you're releasing it.
Yeah.
People are afraid to get involved anymore. People are afraid you're going to be a bigot. You're going to be a sexist. You're going to be a racist. You're a homophobe. You're an evil Republican. You're an evil Democrat. They're going to get labeled. They're going. They go into that job interview. Oh, we found this on YouTube of you speaking out. Yeah, we don't like that. Thank you for applying. That is what has happened in many sectors of society. And people are afraid, in many cases, unless you're not checking off the right boxes or saying the right buzzwords, you're going to be sunk in many sections of society, and you just don't know who you're walking into that boardroom, into that office, and on what side of the fence they are until they open their mouths.
But that's a contradiction of society nowadays, because when you talk about sensationalism and you talk about wanting to protect your reputation, somebody's going to get out there and they're going to say, hey, well, I fucking hate this thing, whatever it is, because of whatever it is, and then 2 days later they're going to turn around and delete that post because then they're going to realize, well,
I was hacked.
This is my reputation, right? Excuses out the butthole. But the point comes down to is we need to stop with the sensationalism. We need to stop painting everything in such broad strokes and trying to make everything so goddamn exclusive. Like we're talking about, since you felt so good being here now after 2.5 hours of speaking, and the thing is if we could do this on a more consistent basis, and not just the Kick, not just Longbox, not just what happens here, but people, if they're listening now, if you're out there listening and you decided not to call in tonight, if you decided to just spectate and not get involved,
I'm tapping in here. I asked everyone to call in and talk. No one will. People are scared. People don't want to. And maybe some people know that we do this and we'll podcast it. You can listen to it later. You don't get your voice heard. You just listen to our voices. And the 5 of us, I think we walk out feeling good with each other. Sorry, you weren't a part of it. You didn't make your voice. And this is what we do. We open it up. We want everybody, but people are too scared to talk, too scared to call, 4920450. People are too scared to worry about their political career, or their stance in the community. They don't want to say the wrong thing. Maybe they have a case to protect Dylan Noble, or
just not everyone. Or just their job period, and somebody files a complaint at HR.
Okay, because everyone's scared.
At some point in time, you have to put that risk. Guys, you guys know about risk more than anybody else at this table. You guys know about this. You walked out, and at any point in time when you were in Kuwait and Somalia, it could have ended for you. You have no idea what that is. Now, I'm not saying that this is the place, but you know about risk. Okay? Everybody in this, within the sound of my voice, does not have to deal with that kind of risk. So you might lose a job. Yes, I understand that unemployment is really high and out of control and things, but sometimes if you believe in what you believe in, look, here's the reality. Here's an old bald black man's reality.
I'm on unemployment because I believe in myself.
Here's a reality. Something that has been said here might tick somebody off enough that I might drive home and somebody may off me. I realize that. I take that risk. I also realize, because I've dealt with it, that I made this statement and people don't believe me, but the fact of the matter is, because of the air of stress and strain that's out there, that any number of things can happen, and I could get pulled over, and I could be the next victim in Fresno. There could be a Geoff Thurman thing that happens. I mean, that's a reality, and I deal with that. But I'm not going to be quiet, because the more you talk, the more you diffuse, the more peaceful it becomes, the more understanding. I'm not saying that everybody has to agree.
Just clarify. Talk, being talk, not
communicate.
Yelling. Yes. And listen on the other side.
Something civil to that end.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, you gotta give me that. That's not talking. That's just yelling into the atmosphere.
Right.
Talk and listen.
That's right.
And I just wanted to finish my previous thought by saying this. It better not be on a Monday night, because then you're missing out on the Kick. But Tuesday through Sunday, get your asses together. If you're out there listening right now, get your asses together and start talking. Talk amongst your friends. Start talking to strangers. Start talking to the community that's around you, because the community you live in is a community that ultimately is going to be there for you when the shit hits the fan for all of us.
And that's where leadership comes from in America. It doesn't come from the top. If you're going to wait for the president, a senator, a congressman, a governor, a councilman, okay, they're not going to step up. It takes the people. Remember, one thing about the Tea Party movement back in 2009, 2010, those were thousands and thousands of people coming together. Then all of a sudden, the leaders started showing up. Oh my gosh, I need to get sounding like saying, oh my gosh, I need to get in front of this so I can lead them. And they said, no, get out of the way. You weren't here. It was a mass movement. You had a lot of regular citizens who stepped up and took over leadership positions. A few happened with the not so much with the Occupy Wall Street movement. There were a few that came up that way, but it was the people, people coming together. When one or two people, from experience, after the military, I had a grassroots political career. One or two people walking into a congressman or a city councilman's office doesn't do anything. 50, 100, 1,000 of you showing up, all of a sudden you have their attention.
Mm-hmm. This place. This is my hope.
Yep.
What we're doing here tonight.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Geoff, plugs again.
Plugs.
Where can we find you?
GeoffThurman.net. GeoffThurman. I am on Facebook. I am on Twitter. I'm on Tumblr. Easiest thing to do is to Google me, GeoffThurman. You will find me someplace. I would love to hear from you. I don't care if you agree with me or not. I just want to hear.
We'll have all the plugs on the website. You will be back. Chris.
God bless America. I'm around. Hear me on the radio, see me out and about town. I'm approachable. Just come up, say hi.
We'll definitely have you back for sure. Vanna, tomorrow night, what you got?
Tomorrow night, the Short People podcast is going to be back with our second Pokemon-themed episode. For those of you who didn't listen, we did our very first Pokemon episode, an entirely themed Pokemon 20th anniversary podcast back in March. We're back at it.
Shrink away from that subject.
Do the Pokemon Go. And for those of you who know, I'm actually going to be competing at Worlds this year at the Pokemon tournament here in San Francisco. Unlike these other nerds, I'm a legit nerd. I've been playing Pokemon since 2000, competitively, and since it came out. But since 2000, I've been playing competitively. So we're going to have a beta tester who actually tested Pokemon Go before everybody else. And you can catch that tomorrow night at 7 p.m. right here on Longbox.FM.
Oh my God. Now, last week we joked about I'm not going to talk about Pokemon, and then we did. And then this week we didn't even mention it, and Pokemon is here. Pokemon is...
I don't do Pokemon. I'm too ticklish.
I'm going to poke you after the show. I know that we didn't break ground. We didn't change the world here, but this is one moment, and I'm glad to have. Chris, you've been posting on my website for 6-7 weeks now, and I'm glad to have met you, Geoff. We talked the last time I think I saw you or you were part of any of my shows was 4 years ago, but we have a history. I'm glad you're here. Glad we're doing this. Hopefully we can keep things going in the future. So from now, for me, for everyone on my crew, join your community, shake hands, get to know people, acknowledge people, and God damn it, I hope. Gosh damn it. Sorry, Geoff. You're fucking with me here.
Holy shit. Stop this stuff, please.
I hope we woke you up tonight. We'll be back next Monday. Here on Longbox.FM.
Next Wednesday?
Sorry, I'm still not used to my sign-off on this show.
I feel like Captain America. Language.
Language!
Oh, hey, gosh darn it, no bad words.
Well, you said earlier you've never listened to any of my shows, so I'm like, yeah, no, welcome to.
I don't.
Radio.
Yeah. No, it was fun. It's great.
Huh?
You were not. You are not going to offend me.
I used to work for KFJ.
I know.
Oh, you did?
But it was,
Yeah, I worked for Pastor Jim Franklin on Jim Franklin Live.
Oh,
I was the call-in person, and then they needed somebody to do the commercials.
No,
and then
Pastor
he was
Jim
like,
Franklin, what the fuck do you
and then he was like, yeah, and then Jim Franklin was like, no, wait a minute, you're smart. And I was like, you're talking about this. And he was, callers would have these topics, and he had no idea what they were about. And I'm like, it's about this, and I pulled up the article, so he was like, well, why don't you be a topic researcher too? So I did that until I started college. And it was fun.
I finally got flagged for this.
17
Where'd you
at the
go?
time I was 18.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to McLean.
Even though
I was student body president, very proud of it.
Really? What year did you graduate?
2008.
Huh?
It's supposed to be open.
I was born in 1990.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a youngin'.
Okay. Where'd you go to middle school at?
I went to middle school El Capitan in Central Unit 5.
Oh, El Cap. Okay. I was gonna say because if you had gone to SCAN, you might have had my brother as a PE teacher.
Let me.
All right. Gentlemen, go back to my wife.
I need to get a picture, everyone.
Yes, photo
Wonderful,
time.
man.
Well, that was my first time being a guest of any kind. Usually, I'm sitting in the back, don't say that. Don't answer that.
Let me get everybody lined up.
I need 2 kegs of this stuff.
The vanilla cream. Yeah, 2 kegs will hurt your brain. Scoot in on the TV.
Ben, you on Facebook?
What's that?
You on Facebook?
I'm always on Facebook.
I gotta find that. I gotta find you on that.
Ben, come on in. Ben and Vanna, who hate each other.
Too. I do stand up.
There we go. Okay. Cool.
Oh, you made a commercial for
It's
us.
fun, man.
Oh, that's shit.
So how was that for my first time doing something like this?
You're fine.
You did great.
Huh?
You did